Which
welcome back, friends, to Through the Black. Today, August 7th, 2023. It's a Monday night. Yes, I know it's been a while. I know I missed you too. But oh, look who it is. Hey, Vic.
Hey, Twinsy.
Hey,
How you doing?
hey, I'm just glad you showed up. I didn't know if you still love me anymore.
I don't know. And it fades in and out, but it's a good day. So you're letting
Okay.
me out.
Well, good, because we didn't get to hang out too much at the conference. I didn't know if
No, we didn't. We didn't. You were so important. You were always being whisked away, and
then
so.
you pawned Dad off on me for a whole day, and
Oh gosh, yes. Dad is now Instagram famous, selling some coffee for us. And
yeah. Well, hey, yeah, that's good. That makes me feel better. I wasn't sure. I didn't know if you were ignoring me or what. But hey,
No.
you helped me out big time because you swapped spaces with me, and I was on my way to Columbus as you were doing your program, and I heard great things about it, but that's it. So
it's a blur. It's a blur. I don't even remember what I was saying. I was a little like disappointed at first. I'm like, oh, I just wanted to get it over with Friday night. But when Friday night rolled around after being road weary and everything, I was like, I am so glad we switched. I was so happy that I didn't have to do it till Saturday. And then I was first up Saturday. So once it was done, I had the whole day to just schmooze and fellowship. So it worked out perfectly.
Well, hey, it worked out great. That's good. So of course, we're talking about the Go Therefore conference. We were at like a week and a couple of days ago. It's taken us a while to make this happen. We're kind of late doing the recap, but man, it once again amazing to see so many people, to meet new people. And I had to step out Saturday morning. I went to a graduation ceremony for my son who's graduating from the internship, who many of the listeners supported in his internship. He went 8 weeks to Columbus and he had such a good time. He didn't want to come home. Like,
I can't believe it's over already.
I know, right? You guys remember how sad I was when it was coming up to the time?
Yeah.
And who would have thought? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
It went by so quick, and
I can't believe it's over already. Well, speaking of Tom's sons, I have to say, in 100% authenticity, the conference was awesome. I got to see friends I've known for years. I got to see a bunch of people who I have met online but never met in person. And everything about the conference was awesome. But I have to tell you, in all seriousness, my highlight was getting to meet your son Elijah and seeing him there and seeing the two of you hanging out together. That was absolutely the best thing in the whole world. I would see you guys kind of walking together and he'd be following you around, and my heart wanted to burst. I just thought it was awesome.
Well, you know what? He was kind of overwhelmed and a little bit anxious to be there, but he really just appreciated all the people coming up to him afterwards and talking to him and stuff. Yeah. So it really like meant a lot to him, and it was cool. Before my talk, I was up, just kind of putting together the last pieces of everything. And he was sitting next to me, but we had the TV on so we could watch into the sanctuary. And my son's sitting next to me, who is, and if you don't know the story of my son, you'll have to, we'll tell you later on, but he's been a prodigal, and he just recently came back home. So we'll tell you more about that later. But he was sitting next to me and watching Coach Dave. And I thought, what is happening right now? Like, I never thought that there would be a time where my son would like sit and watch Coach Dave, and Coach Dave, of course, brought the fire. But it was really cool. And of course, just, I don't know, so much great feedback and people connecting and people still talking about the conference from a couple months ago. Mike and Kathy just did an amazing job. It was, I mean, this is like a big time conference. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
And I think it's just going to continue to grow. There were a lot of people. Do you know 200 people there?
There was 200 some, in everything included, like the live stream and everything. I think there was 350 total.
Yeah, they had a lot of people on live stream.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. So cool. And it was really, my presentation that I got to give, it was really personal, towards the end of it. And it's what's been going on in my life. We don't talk about all of our, hidden things that we deal with. Okay. Just because we don't want to, we don't want to put it all out there. We put a lot out there. We're pretty transparent and honest on this show, but there are some things that need, privacy. But I got to share some stuff of what I kind of been dealing with, So anyway, yeah, we'll talk about all that later. And there's more, there's more to that story, and even stuff that I had to cut out. But I saw bits and pieces of everybody's talk because there was a monitor in the gym area, where we were. And I have of course, I have a link. So I got to go back and watch everybody's talk. They're I think they're putting them up, editing them and stuff and cutting them down. So, guys, go there for conference.com. I'm sure they're going to have another one next year. You might want to try to make it out. I don't know what they're going to do. They're talking about getting a bigger place, but they're also talking about cutting it off. If they get 300 people, cut it off, and it's they're only going to do that, that many people. Of course, there's the streaming option as well. So we'll see what happens. It's good to see L.A. Marzulli again, Pastor Casper. Okay, just all of our friends. Of course, Greg Reed. Poor Greg Reed. He had all kinds of traveling problems. And he was supposed to get in at 1 a.m. Then it changed to 3 a.m. Then it changed to 6 a.m. or something like that, or 8 a.m. So I was running back and forth from Mansfield to Columbus to Dayton to back to Columbus. And I was so glad to get home. I had been driving and driving and driving. So.
Oh man. Yeah, it was great to see everybody. I'm glad Greg was there. It was amazing. And Mike Lake was there. He's one of my favorites. Randy Conway was there. He's one of my
talked to Randy a little bit. Yeah.
Randy was amazing. And so, yeah, it was great. And what was kind of personally sort of fun for me is, I really enjoy talking about the fringe stuff and the sleep paralysis and all that. I love talking about it because when people hear about it, they realize they're not alone, and we're talking about ways to get set free. And so I can't really say that I get sick of talking about it, but I thought because this was a little bit of a different crowd, this is Mike Spalding, he's a pastor. I thought I'm going to use this as an opportunity to talk a little bit less about the actual aspect of sleep paralysis and tie it more into the gospel and what this sleep paralysis is sort of mocking and mimicking. And so I actually got to talk more about the gospel in my presentation than I had to talk about the sleep paralysis. And it was just so fun for a change to talk about Jesus instead of all the shadow people. And I just, I have to give a little shout out. Everybody there was so gracious to me, but Sharon Gilbert, oh my gosh, Tom, the Gilberts have been so supportive of me since the day this book came out. They have just been the epitome of a Christian brother and sister. There's no pettiness or passive aggressiveness or competition. They've been so supportive. And Sharon talked right after me, and we were in the back of the sanctuary, getting mic'd up and everything. And both her and Derek, were praying for me. And Sharon leaned over and whispered into my ear right before I got on to talk, because I was right back to back with her. She was going to come on after me. And she said, you take as long as you need. If you bleed over into my time, you take as long as you need. And I ended up not having to do that, but that was so gracious. And when I got off stage, she was, there on the side because she was ready to go up, and she just gave me this huge hug. And I just have to give a shout out. Everybody knows that Derek and Sharon are awesome, but I just have to say they are just. I just can't say enough wonderful things about those two.
I absolutely love Derek and Sharon Gilbert, and they were up in the green room with Elijah and I,
Okay.
watching the video and everything of the first couple shows. And those guys behind the scenes, those guys are the real deal. You know what I'm saying? They're just so sincere about what they're doing, and they just had kind of commentary, on some things, and were just, from afar encouraging, the speakers and stuff, and just it was good. Years ago, I met Derek Gilbert in 2008. I had him come down to Tennessee and MC a conference I was doing. Everything was booked, right? And he was kind of known as an interviewer back then. He would interview these people. So I said, would you come down and be the MC for this conference? Because I don't have any more room. And he said, yeah, I'll do it. So he came down, and I was interviewing him for some kind of behind the scenes stuff, something I was working on. And he would stop in the middle of the interview and like send out a message to Sharon, or talk about Sharon or something, or say something, complimentary about Sharon. I'm like, Derek, Sharon is nowhere around here, is what I was thinking. I didn't say that, I mean, and if anybody's watched PID radio or listened to PID radio for years, Derek Gilbert and Sharon Gilbert, they're just like this couple that can go from like zero to like, the couple that makes you sick, like they're always lovey-dovey, just like in 10 seconds, right? And that's just the way they are. They're just madly in love with each other, and they're so much fun to be around. So I was so glad that they were back. I love getting to do conferences with them. So just I was telling somebody, I was like, man, I wish I had an hour to spend with everybody that wanted to talk.
Yeah.
And I just made myself available when I got back Saturday to try and talk to as many people as possible. So it was hard because people would come up, they would kind of come up and stand there. And then the person that you're talking to is like, they feel pressure to kind of hurry up, but they had something, that they needed to share or talk about or pray about. But it was really good. Something that stuck out to me about this conference is we had more people just kind of saying, instead of saying I need help, they were saying, how can I help? That's what stuck out to me. And that happens, at conferences, people want to help, and things like this. But anyway, there was just lots of ministry taking place all over the, all over the church. So it was a good thing. But Vic, one cool thing that's happened is during this time, and of course, if anybody doesn't know, I got to spend the Monday after the conference with Vic's dad, but it wasn't a free ride, folks. I put him to work. Okay. I put him to work. So we hung out, we got to do some stuff, and we took a little road trip. But anyway, that was a blast. Okay. And I'll tell you, this kind of goes hand in hand here. So I'm just going to go ahead and play this little commercial that he helped me shoot for our coffee. Okay. So folks, just check out this commercial, and it's going to make you want to buy this coffee. Okay. So if you don't know, Through the Black has coffee. Where's the camera at? Oh yeah, I can't see. There you go. Yeah. So I'm just going to go ahead and play this video, and then throughtheblack.com, the orders will pour in after this. So here we go. Hey guys, what's going on? Tom Dunn here. Just to remind you that Through the Black is selling coffee now. That's right. It's Post Teneribus Lux Dark Roast from Uganda. Whole bean. Guys, come on. This coffee is so good that even this senile old man loves it.
Zippity doodah!
There you go. Throughtheblack.com is the website where you can find our coffee and everything else. God bless you guys.
I haven't seen that one.
So, did you know, Vic? I mean,
that my
Did
dad
you
said
know
last-
that your
Yes.
dad was basically a star? I mean,
I did not know. I did not know. He's a pretty good sport there, you know.
yeah, he
Even
was.
if he even knew where he was,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. I mean, I had to remind him all day. My name is Tom.
Oh man. So there's a little story here. A few weeks ago, we were at Silver Dollar City with a whole bunch of our friends, and at the very, very tail end, one of our friends, their mother was with, and she was in one of those little carts all day. And so she said to my dad, like, "Oh, you got to try this thing. You got it." So dad is in one of these like old people carts, right? So as soon as he gets in the cart in front of like everybody, I lean up into his ear really loudly and Dad, have you taken your water pill? And so then my two friends are right on it, and we're all just harassing him like the whole way back to hand this cart in, like he's this old man who's wet in his shorts. It was so funny. We gave him a hard time.
Oh man, we had so much fun. It should be a crime. I'll be honest with you. And I can't even tell you about
Oh.
I can't even show the picture of the outtake, okay, of him. Like
I can only imagine.
yeah, I don't even know what to say. I need to stop right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he wanted to shoot a little commercial of his own, and
yeah, dad is his humor is inappropriate, and I don't mean dirty. It's just
to say the least, yeah.
It's just inappropriate. He's just blissfully clueless, and he knows he's being clueless.
Well, no, and that's what I love about him. I'm like, okay, him and I are on the same page.
Very nice, very nice. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall, seeing the two of you hanging out. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I really
was fun. It was great. Yeah. So hey, yeah. Anyway, guys, yeah, we do have coffee. Shout out to Ashley that helped us put this together. You know what? The truth is, I have been looking for a while trying to come up with a source, and I couldn't find it, and everything I found was just not working. It was just not working. There's a lot of places out there online that do this. And I talked to Ashley. She's just one of our volunteers, one of the people that are helping us here at Through the Black. Matter of fact, if anybody is trying to, she's helping out with booking and stuff like that. She's going to help me organize all that stuff. So she's been an amazing help. She's been a friend of the show forever, since back in the Jared days. Anyway, I told her what I wanted to do, and she was like, hey, I think I have the solution for that. And she basically just kept throwing these ideas at me, and I just picked the ones that I liked. And we came up with this coffee, Post Tenebris Lux. And I had everything shipped to her. She put the stickers on the bag and the roasters out there, put it together. So, man, smells good. If you like coffee, it tastes good. Anyway, dark roast. It's available on the website. So we have maybe 20 of these left. And yes, for a limited time, and I don't know how much longer because we're running out, you can get an exclusive shirt. And I don't have it with me. Yeah, it's anyway, it's one that we've never put on the website. It's a Through the Black shirt, and it says anti-woke. So on a TV, it's hard to explain, but it's in another one of the videos. So anyway, it's never been available on the website, only at conferences. So people see it and they're like, where did that come from? Well, speaking of t-shirts, in case anybody doesn't know, these are our Resist shirts. And yes, I know Vicky's got a special one. You cannot have that one. Okay.
Look at that.
So
I should have worn it.
We updated the Resist shirts, and you can't see it because it's blanking out. But yeah, that's on the website. So anyway, guys, when you buy the coffee and the shirts, it helps us keep rolling a little bit over here. So we just appreciate the support. We kind of we just did the coffee as a fun thing. So we just wanted. I thought about it for a long time, and we had put so much work into this. We were going to scrap the whole idea, and I said, you know what? Let's just do some and bring them to the conference. And we have some left over, but yeah. people, I've been shipping them out, so people have been buying them. So thank you,
Really cool.
guys.
Please buy them, or apparently my dad has to go to the Barbie movie.
Yes.
And yes. I will not accompany him.
That's the other video. Yeah, he was a great sport. By the way, I said, hey, I got some ideas for some commercials. He's like, yeah, I'll do whatever you want me to do. So,
oh man.
The other commercial is we're standing out in front of a theater, and I said, if you don't buy this coffee, I will torture this old man by making him watch the Barbie movie. And he just kind of begs, for mercy. So please buy the coffee. So, so anyway, Vic, the stories that we're going to talk about tonight, the topic was first brought to my attention by our good friend Jared Cressman. He asked me if I heard of this story, and I looked it up, and I thought, wow, we got to talk about this. And then there was another story that was relevant. So we're going to talk about a crazy topic tonight. This is kind of dark, you guys. Parents who murder their kids. So it's kind of dark. And in this first story that we're going to take a look at, there's a video, and I don't think you haven't seen this one, Vic, but it gives description of how this father carried this out. It's not grisly, but it just basically gives kind of a point by point how he carried out these murders. And we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about like obsessive intrusive thoughts. Okay. And we were trying to come up with an idea, a different name for this before the show, and we didn't really settle on anything. But Vic, before we even get into this, I'm just going to call this the devil screaming in your ear, and there's some type of spiritual weakness that has made these people vulnerable to this powerful demonic suggestion. This father, and we're going to see this in the video, he couldn't quit thinking about shooting his sons. And when you see him in the courtroom, I don't think he wanted to do this. Okay. I'm thinking of, other stories that we've seen of children killing their parents. I don't know how many years ago it was, but there was an epidemic really of kids killing their parents because they got grounded from their video games. Yeah. And then they did it. And then they're like, I loved my mom. I didn't want to do that. And they don't know what, they don't know what took them over. They don't understand what happened. Okay. Well, we as believers understand this. I've seen some situations, and I prayed against some stuff like this. So I think we got to be very aware of just how powerful the enemy can be to vulnerable people. Okay. The people that are not saved, that don't have the covering of the blood of Christ, are the most vulnerable. People that don't have anybody praying for them, people that have somehow opened up a door in their life, are the most vulnerable. I don't know all the details about this story, but this actually happened in Ohio, and happened in the last couple months. So, Katie, if we could go ahead and just kind of pull this up, we're going to watch this video, and then we might read some from the actual news page here. I think this is Cincinnati News. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Here we go.
New details are emerging about the horrific day on June 15th when Claremont County investigators say that Chad Dorman admitted to killing his 3 sons. I've received the bill of particulars from the investigation. The public document lays out what investigators say took place that day. A warning here that some details of this case can be uncomfortable to hear.
Stand up now!
Chad Dorman was taken into custody without issue as he sat on the side of his home on June 15th. The bill of particulars document says he sat there and calmly watched his wife, Laura, undertake futile life-saving measures on her 3 children. It all began, according to the document, shortly after Chad Dorman came home early from work and asked his wife and 3 boys to join him in the master bedroom for a nap. The document says Dorman grabbed a Marlin model HC-22 caliber rifle from next to the bed in a gun safe and shot one son twice. Investigators say Dorman's wife immediately began to render aid to her son and yelled for her other children to run. The document says Dorman's stepdaughter walked into the room and witnessed the shooting and ran out of the back of the home, chasing after her brother, who was already running toward a field. Dorman, according to the document, gave chase and began shooting, hitting his son, knocking him to the ground. Dorman then walked up to his son, where he fired one shot into his head at close range. The document then lays out how the stepdaughter ran back toward the house and picked up the youngest son, Chase, and tried to run from the property. Dorman caught up to them and demanded that she put Chase down. When she did, Dorman attempted to shoot his son in the head, but the gun didn't fire. At that point, Chase ran to his mother on the side of the house where she was rendering aid to her other son. Dorman would eventually shoot Chase at close range, killing him. The document also reveals that Dorman's wife, Laura Hensley, fought back at one point. Hensley grabbed the firearm, placing her thumb over the barrel. Dorman then firing the rifle, shooting through her thumb. In the account of that day, the document says Dorman made several statements like, "I did it, take me to jail." It goes on to say Dorman admitted during a recorded interview that he had been thinking about shooting his sons since October, and it had been weighing so heavy on him that he hadn't slept for 3 or 4 days prior to murdering his 3 sons.
If you'd like to take a closer look, that is, at the entire bill of particulars tied to this case, we have put the entire document on WCP.
So, and that's basically it. Vic, he was so troubled by these thoughts that he was losing sleep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're, Mary and Joe USA sitting on your couch and watching the evening news, or however, America watches their news through their phone or on TV, what do you make of this story, face value?
It's impossible to watch things like that and not see it through a biblical worldview. Like when you're a Christian, you just, I'm not saying that everybody who does a crime is possessed by the devil, but what I'm saying is it's impossible not to think spiritually, like what was going on or what's going on in his life that we don't know about. What did he do to open certain doors? I think the question too, and maybe I know the answer to it, but the question that always pops into my mind, and usually when I see stories like this, it's a mother in some sort of like deep postpartum depression or something like that. A lot of times it's the moms. But I just have to ask the question, like, I know some of the obvious answers, but why, if you're struggling with something like that for weeks, do you not tell anybody? And I understand in the real world, that's not the kind of thing you want to admit out loud because it makes you sound like a monster. And I mean, I understand, but like for weeks, at what point wouldn't you go to a counselor or a pastor or somebody and say, I need help? But I guess if these people have never done anything like that before, they probably don't think they're actually gonna carry through with it. That's the part that just perplexes me, is why these people don't seem to reach out for any sort of intervention.
I mean, how much is mental illness? How much is demonic attack, demonic influence?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, and I guess it doesn't matter now. One of the questions I want to ask is, how do we stop this, or how do we see the signs of this?
Yeah. Yeah.
I tell you what, I don't take anything lightly. Raising my kids, especially after I took the Russ Dizdar courses. Okay. And it doesn't necessarily have to be to this extreme, but I would a lot of times wonder what my kids were thinking, maybe not so much of hurting someone else, but hurting themselves, because you see a lot of this on, these stories on TV. You hear about them locally. Okay. And if you hear, a child killed themselves, and then you hear, they seem like they were depressed and the parents didn't do anything. So that puts us on high alert, and we see that our kids are, kind of down in the dumps or something. So you just don't want to take it lightly, right?
Right. Right.
You don't want to take any kind of odd behavior lightly, extreme violence, or doesn't even necessarily have to be extreme violence. Okay. I don't think that we can blame video games, because if video games were doing this, then it would be just a bloodbath across this country, because there's so many kids playing crazy violent video games. I think it's a combination of things. Okay. Somewhere there's been a door open. Okay. Somewhere, and then the video games can be one of those ingredients. Okay. But when there is a spiritual stronghold, okay, kids won't respond to discipline. And I think that is that's something that we should look out for. Okay.
Yes.
When you discipline a child, whether it's a kid that's 5 years old or a teenager, the discipline is designed to correct their behavior. Okay. You swat a kid on the butt, like if for whatever reason, and it gets their attention. They're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that again. Okay. And maybe a teenager has a different type of grounding, or a different type of punishment. And they're like, this really sucks. I don't like this punishment. I'm not going to do this behavior again. Okay. So, but when they don't respond to that, there's something else going on. Okay. And it can be a spiritual stronghold. It can be just something going on psychologically with the child. But I think that's a good place to, you definitely, if it gets to that point, you don't want to ignore it. Okay.
Yeah.
Pray like crazy. Cover your home, cover your children in prayer. When nobody's in the house, go from every room, read the Bible out loud, put Bible verses up on the wall. I could tell when my kids, when they brought something home. Okay. And I called it like a spirit of rebellion. And I'm just like, what is going on, with so-and-so? Why are they acting so different? And we know teens go through these sort of things, but also I believe kids can bring stuff home. It can be learned from other kids, or it can be a spiritual thing that jumps on them, right? So I've had to go down and pray over my kids' room, over the home, over my kids, and just kick out anything that came home with them. And I noticed a difference. I noticed that there, when that stronghold was broken, that they weren't rejecting the discipline, so to speak. Any thoughts on what I'm saying?
Yeah. So one of the things that I read when I was reading about this guy, so Chad Dorman is the guy we're talking about who killed his 3 sons, is that they had a lot of neighbors, like the news places were interviewing the neighbors, and the neighbors were saying that this guy, it was like on a daily basis, he was screaming at those kids and his wife. Now, that in and of itself, there's a lot of people that scream at their families and have anger issues and drink or whatever that are going to look really aggressive to the neighbors that aren't going to ever take it as far as this guy did. So I don't even know if that could be a sign. But a lot of those, like way back in our Rumble days where we were doing the morning show on Rumble, and we were talking about a lot of these like teenagers who admired these school shooters. It never ceases to amaze me how these school shootings and stuff will happen. And then all you have to do is go on these kids' Facebook page, and for months and months, they're putting it out there. They're posing with guns and saying that they love Derek Klebold and all this stuff. And it's kind of like, at what point was that not like a warning sign? And I mean, I remember too, you were telling a story about, I don't know if you were in junior high or high school, but you told a story where you did some like writing project, and the teacher was like, red flag, this is too violent. And immediately it was like addressed and taken care of. So it's like, where are those parents and teachers in this generation, So I don't know, Tom, I at what point, like, I think it's pretty I think it's pretty obvious. Like if we're around a neighbor or a coworker and there's certain aspects of people's character that we can detect. Like we can tell if someone's aggressive or, we can kind of tell who's the closet alcoholic. But I mean, at what point does someone whose life is out of control, do you see a sign that their family is in danger? Like, I just don't know what would be the warning sign apart from something overt. How would you ever differentiate between a miserably angry drunk and someone who's actually going to turn a gun on their family? Like,
Yeah, there's not one size fits all here.
no.
Okay. As far as a solution. And I'm seeing things in here. I'm not sure that meth played a part in this. I could be wrong, but I'm not sure that it did. They didn't mention it. Okay. But it's possible. It's very possible. But I got the idea that the reason the guy was staying up or he couldn't sleep is because he was so obsessed with these thoughts of killing his kids. So, but I could be wrong about that. I haven't seen anything come out that the guy was on meth, and I'm sure that they would use that. Now, how about some psychotropics? They never mention that. There's got to be some kind of antidepressant, medication that this guy was on, right?
Yeah, I agree. I thought that myself because there are a lot of spiritual side effects to that stuff. Psychotropic medication, I believe that can open a door. But that's the scary thing too, is let's say someone did what I was saying earlier they should do. Let's say someone's like, I'm raising the red flag on myself here. I'm going to go talk to a counselor. I'm going to tell them I'm having these thoughts. The first thing they're going to do is get put on that medication,
right?
Which I think is only going to make it worse in most cases. So what is the solution? And I don't want to be simple-minded, Tom, but I just think like, we haven't talked about it in a while, but the whole like resist and rescue, where we should be doing prayer drives and prayer walks. And, we just never know what's going on in our neighbors' basements. You know what I mean? Like we just assume everybody's stressed out. Everybody's got financial issues. Everybody's got sickness and jobs. Like we're all under the same weight of being stuck on this planet. But it's hard to believe that we just have no idea. Like I'm thinking about Chris Watts and, Scott Peterson. Yeah. Like you never know what your rich, wealthy, good looking neighbor is really struggling with. And it's, I remember I used to do prayer walks in the neighborhood, and it's just like, you have this idea that wealthy people in upper middle class neighborhoods with beautiful houses and brand new cars, that the worst thing that they're going to struggle with, is, losing a job or something. But especially with the work we do, with the Satanism and stuff, we just have no idea what is going on in the average house and what our neighbors are really struggling with and what kids are enduring when they get home from school. And I just can't stress enough how much we as believers need to be praying protection over our neighborhoods and praying for our neighbors. God only knows what's going on next door right now,
Well, Vic, you just reminded me something that happened 1 block away from where I live right now. This has been over 12 years ago. And I think I might have been at work when this happened. But I live in a really nice middle-class neighborhood. Okay. Very safe, very nice. And we got word one day there was a shooting 1 block away from here. And we're like, what happened? The story was that this son was an adult son living with a family that was harassing this guy was harassing his mom in really weird, bizarre ways. And I think this was an adopted son. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but the father killed the son, shot him, I think, with a shotgun in his room in the basement. And he said that it was basically in self-defense. And if he wouldn't have done that, then this guy was going to do something horrific to the mother. Now, I don't know all the details of the case, but the father that killed the son, he got out in just a few years, and he did get a lesser charge because the jury was convinced that this son was dangerous. I don't know how that happens because he killed this guy. But I do remember because I worked with a lady whose daughter-in-law was one of the crime scene investigators. And I guess that the basement where this guy lived was filled with reptiles. Nothing against reptiles, okay? Nothing against snakes and lizards and all that. But maybe there's a connection to this. And I remember, I think the power was cut off and they had to take a flashlight down there. And they said everywhere they shined the light, there was like a lizard or something, like exotic, type animals. So I don't know what this guy was into, snakes and lizards and stuff. And nothing wrong with having them as pets. But I just remember the person being, real creeped out. And there was a thought that there was some kind of connection or some kind of reason he was into this. But anyway, we walked by this house all the time. We had no clue this was happening inside of this house.
Yeah.
And years ago, my daughter and I, we would just start, driving through the neighborhood and praying. Okay. And seeing, like, if we saw toys in the yard, we'd pray for the kids. If we saw somebody out, we would just like, Lord, we don't even know who those people are, but we pray for them. Okay. So I got to tell you something after the show I met one of my neighbors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Something really cool happened. Somebody knew me from a long time ago, but no time to tell it here. So anyway, we don't know, and we got to pray. Folks, are you listening to this show right now? Are you praying for your neighbors? If not, who is? If you're not praying, the city that I live in, Mansfield, used to be the #1 city in Ohio for murder per capita. Okay.
Wow.
So, which is kind of hard to do, to beat Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Columbus. Okay. But there were more murders happening here in this city than there were in those cities. And people just started praying for revival, and, church leaders, rose up, and they were being proactive about it, spiritually speaking, so, and it's changed, and there's murders that happen in the city, but not like it used to be. So, anyway,
that's crazy. It's so hard for me when, this is one of the things that I think is, a disadvantage to so much of our culture being social media, internet, on a screen. It's hard sometimes to separate reality from the movies and the fiction and the plot lines. And, when you see a story like this and it's made public and all this information is out there about these people's lives. And I know this sounds obvious, but these are real people. And I just think about the woman that was married to this man and the daughter, the one, like, these two women are running around the property witnessing all this. Like, just think of the trauma of that. And the helplessness, not being able to save, seeing the bodies. There's grandmas and grandpas. That's the part that just, in the aftermath, after, the months or years of sort of recalibrating your brain to accept this new reality, you got a guy now in prison who he's going to relive that in his mind over and over and over again. I doubt the people in prison are going to treat him very well. And then you've got this woman, and she's now, living alone and having to support a daughter. They're both going through this trauma, like the aftermath of this stuff. We flip on court TV and we get a little bit of satisfaction when these guys are sentenced, but I can't even wrap my mind around what these women are going to go through the rest of their lives.
So where I live in Ohio is last night was the first night of what's called the Richland County Fair, and my wife and I volunteered to sit in the pro-life booth. And we had some interesting conversations with people coming up to us, and we were talking to them about abortion. Okay, there's a very important vote, by the way. If you're in Ohio, by the way, let me just say this real quick. Please vote yes on issue 1. If you are a voter, please vote yes on issue 1. This is to protect our Constitution in Ohio. And there are some things on the ballot that they want to try to push through, and it's going to get our threshold up to 2/3. So anyway, I forgot to mention that tomorrow is election day. Tomorrow is vote day. So, but anyway, we just heard these heartbreaking stories last night at the booth, and these people just came up to talk to us. And I talked to this one guy that you could tell he was like the biker type and super nice, sweet guy. And he said, yeah, I'm with you guys. I'm pro-life, you know. And then he started talking about his son is 4 years in on a 33-year sentence for shooting his wife.
Oh.
And he said, I said, I'll be dead. He said, I'm pushing 80 and I'll be dead by the time he gets out. I'll never see him again. You know, and of course, this guy killed his wife. He deserves to be in there. And it's just what a nightmare. And then we were hearing about this other woman who we were talking about abortion in regards to rape. And she said that her mother, before she was born, was raped and had the baby and adopted it out. This was back in the 70s, and she didn't find out. And I said, I'm so sorry to hear these things that happened to you. And just bad story, bad news after bad news. But these were just regular people in the in our county, in our city, at our fair. And I looked at my wife and I was like, these are the only ones that have come up to us. How many more people here have these nightmare stories that we don't know? How about all the houses that we drive by on our way to work, on our way to school, wherever we're going, to the grocery store? Who knows what goes on in them? You know, these neighbors were witnessing this violent behavior, and people don't want to really get involved and don't, they want to kind of mind their business. And that's kind of the way I am too. But we've got to be proactive, as far as spiritual warfare and praying in our neighborhoods. I tell you, I don't know. I mean, I do know my neighbors, but I'm not real close with my neighbors. Okay. I'm not crazy about letting my neighbors know what I do unless they ask me, So, anyway, I pray for them. I pray for them when I see them out. I pray for them when I walk around. I pray for protection, in our neighborhood. We haven't had a lot happen here. There's been some thefts lately, but, we pray for their salvation. We pray for all of these things, and pray, Lord, use us, as a witness. And so anyway, so when we saw this story, there was another one that came up. I was watching this analysis, this body language analysis, and this was one of the examples of this woman here. And I saw somebody mention her name. Yeah, she is in the thumbnail. So Vic, we're gonna jump into this. Why I can't remember her name. What's her name? Vic?
Lori,
yes. Lori Vallows, is that right?
Yeah, Vallow something. I can't remember the last name.
So I want to get into this. So why don't what we're going to do is we're going to watch this video of her addressing the judge at her sentencing. Okay. This is pretty insane, Vic.
It is. It is. I've seen this. And
yeah. So here's a woman. Can you tell what happened here? What do you know about this story? She killed her children.
Yeah, she did. So there's a whole bunch of deaths surrounding this woman. Her ex-husband wound up dead. The wife of her so her name is Valo Daybell. So Valo, her husband, got killed, but then Daybell, her new husband, his wife got killed, and then her daughter and their adopted son both got killed. And then I don't know if this is related or just a coincidence, but one of the hitman, so to speak, involved in getting rid of her husband was her brother, and the brother wound up dead as well, but I don't think she was indicted on that. So I don't know if that was a murder or not, but the body count continued to rise, and there's a lot of really interesting details in this case that pertain to religious themes. Let's just say that until we get deeper.
Vic, I've been watching a lot of body language analysis, and I've been reading a book. Like, I've got like 2 chapters left, and I haven't read it in 2 weeks because I've been getting ready for the conference. But I've been reading a book about body language, and I've learned a lot from this book. But if you look at the thumbnail for this show, you'll even notice in the mugshots and in the courtroom picture, there's different body language going on. Okay. And with this Lori girl, okay, there's a lot of arrogance, okay, in her body language. And you'll see that in the sentencing. Okay. Just take note of that. We'll talk about it later. And, you know, even, I mean, if you look at the posture, the body language of this other guy in the first story, he was just sitting there waiting for the cops to show up. And it's almost as if he had some kind of relief that he killed his kids, right? And it's just, you know, finally done. So, yeah. And yeah, no remorse with her. So let's take a look at this. Of this, it's a video of her reacting to the judge, okay, or addressing the judge. Yeah. Hey, and I don't want to lose this. What Pastor Sean said here. I've done jail ministry for years. Folks that are in jail are often just like you. The fact is often that they succumb to their sin nature. We need Jesus. Yeah, exactly. The difference between them and us is we've only thought about it. They've acted on it, right? Yeah. So, okay, let's go ahead and watch this video.
Court. This is known as the right of allocution, which permits you to make a statement on your own behalf or present any information in mitigation of the punishment for the crimes you've committed. And let me inquire at this time, do you wish to address this court? All right.
On the right, in the middle of that far right table, she's leaning back, very relaxed, not alarmed at all, no urgency, no remorse. Listen to her.
I would like to start by quoting John from the New Testament in the Bible. In John chapter 8, verse 7, Jesus says, "He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her." Then in verse 15, Jesus says, "Ye judge after the flesh, I judge no man. And yet if I judge, my judgment is true."
So, Vic, okay, let's stop it right there.
I'm already disgusted.
Yeah, it is disgusting. But I mean, is this mental illness? I mean, she's not denying what she's done, but she's saying, "Hey, whoever's without sin, you go ahead and cast the first stone." She is using this verse as a defense, right? Yeah. The words of Jesus as a defense for the murder of her children.
Yeah. She's like vicariously speaking those words as if she, in a sinless state, has the authority to say them. Like the judge is somehow going to be shamed out of sentencing her because he's going to be judged by Jesus. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's so, I hate using the word narcissistic because it's the buzzword, and everybody in the world who, you know,
that fits, even
just looks at you sideways is supposedly a narcissist. But if you actually look at someone who is absolutely above the law. And it gets worse, Tom. I don't know how much of this we're going to watch, but she doesn't just think she's innocent. She thinks she did those kids a favor.
Yeah, let's watch some more.
And Jesus understands me. I mourn with all of you who mourn my children and Tammy. Jesus Christ knows the truth of what happened here. Jesus Christ knows that no one was murdered in this case. Accidental deaths happen. Suicides happen. Fatal side effects from medications happen. I have a different perspective in life because in 2002, when I was pregnant with Tylee, I died in the hospital while in labor with her. They tried to stop my labor. They put me on the table and they put something in my IV, and I felt my spirit falling to the floor. I was standing near my pregnant body, watching the doctors try to revive me, which took them a few minutes. In that time, my sister Stacy was standing to my left. I turned to hug her and was surprised that her spirit was as tangible as a physical body, because I knew I was in spirit and she was in spirit.
I.
She said she needed to show me some things, and we went to heaven.
So let's just pause it right there real quick. Vic, the way I took this is she is putting herself on the level as Jesus, because she died during pregnancy and then she came back to life.
Yeah. I also want to point out, Tom, I cannot stand illogic and diversions. She said earlier there was no murder. And then she gave 3 examples where a homicide wouldn't be considered a murder. Psychotropic medication, suicide, and accidental death or whatever. None of those 3 things that she cited was the case in any of these murders. When a human being goes up to someone who has no desire to die and shoots them point blank, that's not a suicide. It's not an accident. And as far as I know, this woman wasn't on any medication. So it's completely irrelevant to her point. If you don't think this is a murder, don't cite 3 things that had nothing to do with this particular case. So everything about this little speech of hers, I'm glad she prepared this speech, because it makes it abundantly clear to everyone listening to it that she's guilty. But what is going on in her delusional mind to think that she somehow did some righteous favor to these 4 individuals that are now dead?
Yeah. And I wrote a note here so we can talk about this in a little bit. But what are the warning signs for this?
Oh,
okay. So let's talk about this in a little bit. Right now, she's describing how she was in spirit form and she was taken to heaven and she saw her sister and all of this bull crap. So let's go ahead and listen to some more.
Body. Because of this experience, I have access to heaven and the spirit world. Since then, I have had many communications from people now living in heaven, including my children, Tylee Ashlyn and Joshua Jackson, my sisters, Stacy and Lolly, my aunts and my uncles, and my grandparents. I have had many communications with Jesus Christ, the Savior of this world, and our heavenly parents. I have had many angelic visitors have come and communicated with me and even manifested themselves to me. Because of these communications, I know for a fact that my children are happy and busy in the spirit world. Because of my communications with my friend Tammy Daybell, I know that she is also very happy and extremely busy. I have
Stop it there. She's basically, like you said, Vic, justifying the murder, saying she did these people a favor. They're happy and they're busy. Okay. She is saying, I have knowledge that you guys don't have, that you don't have, Judge. Just, hey, Don't worry about it. You know, you might have thought that this was a bad thing. This is actually a good thing. Okay. I mean, I think one of the obvious profiles here is brainwashed cult member. Okay. I don't want to give her an out. Okay. I don't want to give her any kind of a good defense, but I don't know. What do you think about that, Vic?
So a couple things. I want to address that, but I also want to say when she's talking right there about her dear friend Tammy Daybell, I want everyone to understand Lori, who's speaking, was having an extramarital affair with her dear friend Tammy's husband. And she took her out so she could marry and have her husband. They were not dear friends. It's disgusting to me that she's trying to make it sound in front of Tammy Daybell's family in the courtroom that they were buddies. And I listened to the impact statements of several family members, including Tammy Daybell's sister, which brought me to tears. And what's interesting, Tom, I didn't even know you could do this. Of the 3 impact statements that I listened to from Tammy's family members, all 3 of them in the midst of their impact statement were interrupted by Lori's lawyers, and they tried to strike impact statements from the record, saying this has nothing to do with the case or whatever. And the judge overruled it in partially or altogether in all 3 cases. But it's like, how disgusting are you as family members who are sobbing over the murder of their family members are getting interrupted by lawyers that their feelings and emotions are inadmissible in a court of law? It made me sick.
How sick of a lawyer do you got to be to do that?
That's what I'm saying. It disgusted me. So anyway, but what you were saying, Tom, and I want to say something about that too. As she's talking, and you're saying I don't want to give her a way out. She is talking like these people that I'm dealing with now in my other life, with these people that astral project and interact with spirit guides and familiar spirits, these deceptive spirits that pose as angels of light and family members who are saying you're special and you're chosen. She is trying to Christianize this new age astral projection sort of a thing where she's making it out to be like it's Jesus and it's these dearly departed loved ones. And I'll just state the obvious. She's probably talking to some spirits who are posing as those people, but earth to Lori, you're not talking to Jesus and your dead kids. You're being deceived, completely, utterly deceived.
The arrogance, I think you said it earlier, narcissism is definitely apparent here. I think it's few and far between we ever seen this kind of behavior in a courtroom. Usually when it gets to this point, people are, they wake up and they're like, what have I done? What have I done?
Yeah.
And they try to at least say I was mentally ill. She's not even saying that. She is trying to make it as though her addressing the judge is an impact statement.
Yeah. Tom, I don't know if you saw it, but there's a little tiny body cam footage online of when she was served. So they brought the papers to her. Now, let me just set the scene because it's disgusting. She and her brand new husband, 2 weeks after the death/murder of his wife, are at a beach in swimsuits on their honeymoon. Unbeknownst to everyone else who's worried sick over these missing kids, they're on the beach knowing that these kids' bodies are buried in this guy's backyard. She gets served with the papers. She doesn't bat an eyelash. She doesn't flinch. You talk about body language, Tom. Her eyes don't get wide. Nothing is happening. She calmly reads the 2 pieces of paper. And then she looks up at these guys like, you're bothering me. Let me get back to my honeymoon. She's like, well, do you need anything from me? And they're like, well, do you have any questions? No. I mean, she's being served basically for up to 4 murders. She knows where the bodies are, and she's disgusted that they've interrupted her on the beach.
This is next level, Vic. This is next level.
Yeah. No remorse, no sense of I don't think she's lying there. I think if you strung her up to a lie detector, she'd pass it with flying colors. I think she thinks she's a saint.
You know, that's a good point. That's a real good point. She comes across exactly the way that you're describing it. So I don't know. This is very fascinating. Let's watch some more.
Of my loved ones, and I have lost many in this mortal world. However,
She's the victim.
Yeah.
I know them more than most people. I know where they are now and what they're doing. I know how wonderful heaven is, and I'm homesick for it every single day. I know we all lived in heaven before we were born on earth, and we were all adult spirits in the heavenly realm.
A Mormon belief.
Come to earth as mortals. Heaven is more wonderful than you can possibly imagine. I do not fear death, but I look forward to it. I did not want to return to my body when I was out of it. Even though my son Colby, who I adored more than anything, was only 6 years old at the time, and I was about to give birth to this new baby girl that I wanted so badly.
Okay. And I've seen this in the comments here. Obviously, this woman is a Mormon. Okay. She's citing Mormon doctrine. I have actually here the Book of Mormon, Doctrines and Covenants, Pearl of Great Price. So straight up doctrine of demons. Okay. Recited to Joseph Smith from Demonic Presence. And I've met many Mormons, super nice guys and gals, to be honest with you. My interaction with them. But let me just say this. The starting point for Mormons becoming a Mormon is straight up Garden of Eden deception from that old snake himself, because they say a prayer, is the Book of Mormon real? And they have a spiritual experience that's an amazing feeling come over them. And they call it, they think it's confirmation that the Book of Mormon is a testament of Jesus Christ. Okay. And that many of them from that point decide to go on a Mormon mission trip. Okay. These stories are almost identical. All right. Teenagers in their bedroom wrestling with the idea, is the Book of Mormon real? Is the Book of Mormon real? Then they pray that prayer and they have that, what I call a Garden of Eden experience. Okay. Where, Satan was there tempting Eve and talked her into, taking the fruit. So the foundation of salvation in the Mormon sense, or being a Mormon, is based on similar things to what she's talking about, hearing from the Spirit and getting confirmation and all this crazy stuff. So if anybody doesn't know, anyway, that's just that's a little bit of Mormonism. A lot of you guys know about this, Vic.
Oh man, this whole thing is making me sick, Tom. Like, this whole entire speech she's making is about herself. And if you're fighting for your life, here, because you've committed crimes, this is the part that doesn't make sense to me. If you're going to hyper spiritualize this situation and make everyone in the courtroom believe that the reason this happened is because you're super spiritual. I mean, even in the Book of Mormon, doesn't it say stuff about adultery and murder? I mean, isn't that pretty standard even for non-religious people? That the two, I remember, Tom, when I was young, like in high school, and college, and you do the door-to-door witnessing where you'd go and you knock on the door and you'd share your faith with people. And I remember in college, it was so fascinating to me. We were going door to door, and we would ask people, are you saved? And they would say yes. And then we would say, what makes you think, like, where's your confidence lie in that? And it was so interesting to me, Tom, that every single person that we would talk to would think about what's my evidence that I'm a good person. And they always said, I've never killed anyone or cheated on my wife. So if that's the standard in most people's minds for where they stand with Jesus, like if we're okay or not, and we know it's not by works that we're saved, but even people without a jot or tittle of an idea of what it means to truly be saved, if their litmus test is, I know I'm a pretty good person because I've never murdered anyone and I haven't cheated on my spouse, but then you've got this woman who has murdered multiple people and cheated on her spouse, who in her mind thinks that she's a prophet of God. It makes no sense in any religion. I mean, I don't even think an atheist would start, trying to justify that. So
Vic,
my mind is blown.
Yeah. I don't know how I want to word this, but there are people that we meet, okay? Wherever we meet them at. I'm not going to say where we meet them at, but we come across people, and you know what I'm talking about. People that are, how I'll describe them as unteachable. Okay. They know it all, and there's nothing that you can say that's going to help them, in ministry. That is a profile. Not saying that those people are going to murder anybody.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But there's similarities in the cult, like, you know what I'm saying? If you meet somebody that's unteachable, red flag, that person could be starting a cult or in a cult or something like that. So I don't know why. I just wanted to throw that in there. So let's watch some more of this crazy woman.
A young mother, and you would think I wouldn't want to leave my children, but as I stood in heaven, I did not want to go back. I thought they would be fine without me because I was peaceful and I was happy and I was home. But then I was told by Jesus that I needed to go back and complete things that I had covenanted or promised to do before I was born. This caused me a lot of distress because I knew heaven was my real home and I only wanted to be there. I was free from pain, emotional and physical. But then I was shown how I would help my children and others in the future. So ultimately, I did agree to go back to my body.
She's the hero.
Kylie has visited me. She is happy and very busy. Kylie is free now from all the pains of her life. Kylie suffered horrible physical pain her whole life. I sat with Kylie in the hospital year after year after year while she screamed in pain when the morphine wasn't even enough to take away the pain of her pancreatitis. I sat there while she cried and I held back her hair while she threw
So
up.
Vic, this is kind of going on, and we'll listen to some more of this, but this is just insane.
It is.
She has that same attitude that you described when they picked her up on the beach. Like, guys, okay, do you realize how you're inconveniencing me right now? Let me tell you the truth about what's going on and how good I am and the good thing that I did by killing these people. They're happy. And once you get that, I think you're going to let me out of here. You're going to see the light and you're going to let me go. I couldn't have, somebody said she's deceived by demons, she's possessed by demons and delusional. What did somebody say up here? She's been taken over by demonic spirits, which I believe are generational. I cannot disagree with that. I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't word it that way. Okay, as far as saying that this woman is possessed, but it's not out of the, it's not necessarily impossible, but when we think of somebody possessed, we think of somebody that's just very bad hygiene, very, not a lot of control, very unhealthy. Okay. I would say, I mean, this woman, her mind control cult religion that she was part of played a part in this. And there's got to be a lot of factors, and I'm seeing a lot of things that people are saying in the chats, about the father. She apparently was in a beauty pageant or something like that as well. So there's a lot of factors that went into that. Nothing against people in beauty pageants, but they're, you know what I'm saying? These are part of her profile.
Yeah.
But it's just insane to hear her just go on and on about what a hero she is. And you can still hear that. Like, Vic, nowhere along the line through any of this process did she ever wake up and think, am I the bad guy?
Yeah.
Did I make a mistake?
Yeah.
Should I be remorseful?
Yeah.
It never happened.
Yeah. So I'm going to go on a little rant here because this is something that always infuriates me. I've seen this so many times online. It's hard for beautiful, entitled, perfect people to understand that sometimes disabled people or disadvantaged people or ugly people really love their lives and enjoy their lives. And I know it's hard for some people to understand that life could be worth living if you're not cover model material, but this has infuriated me for so long, Tom. I would read on message boards all the time where people were debating whether or not there's a God or not. So it would be Christians and atheists. And this was a double whammy. The atheists would finally pull the ace out of their sleeve. Like, this is something no Christian's going to argue with. If there's a God, what about all these babies that are born with deformities? What kind of a God would do that? And then here's the double whammy. Most of the Christians would shut down at that point. Like, oh man, yeah, you're right. Oh yeah. When this woman says that her little teenage girl, I don't know how old Tylee was she like between 13 and 15?
Mm-hmm.
I did her a favor because she had pancreatitis and she was in pain and she's so much happier now in heaven. This idea that kids who are struggling with sickness or in children's hospitals or are having surgeries, those kids, I grew up in a children's hospital, okay? I was there for 15 years. Every summer, I practically was raised in a children's hospital. So the kids that were there fighting for their lives, fighting for cancer, every kid in that hospital had one thing in common. They were fighting to live because they wanted to grow up and have all the experiences that everyone else does. And they wanted to fall in love and go to Disney World and get married and all that stuff and drive a car. So this idea that sick kids or kids with deformed faces just want to die because there's nothing to live for is such a bunch of crap. And so, this woman thinking that her daughter would prefer, heaven to it's not instinctive. Even when someone is sick or in pain or deformed, it's not instinctive that we want to sacrifice all the experiences of life because we've got pain or everyone's got pain. So I take personal offense at her logic. Just shows even more arrogance. She can't conceive of the fact that someone who's not, beautiful and perfect could actually enjoy or value their life. And that kind of thing just makes me sick. I just speak on behalf of all those with deformities and physical illnesses that we love our lives just as much as you do. We have our dreams and our goals and we have our gratitude. And God shines down on us, and that whole attitude makes me so angry that somehow being dead is preferable to having a scar on your face. Get real.
Vic, no, I think what you're saying there is excellent, and I think it needs to be said for any of our listeners out there, because many people don't know what to say when they're faced with that. You know what I'm saying? Because there's this this worship of beauty in our culture, okay, of what's considered beauty, all right. And even the women on the covers of the magazine, if you knew any of them or met any of them, they're miserable and they think they're ugly, okay. That's just that just goes hand in hand. They hate themselves, and they're starving themselves, and all of these crazy things that go with that, and they are more miserable than anybody. But of course our our culture continues to lift this idea up, okay. Instead of the meek shall inherit the earth, right? So anyway, the same thing came up last night when I was at the pro-life booth at the fair, that it's the idea that children conceived in rape are throwaway babies. Their life has no value. Okay. And what we would say last night, and I learned this from my kids, we ask them, okay, who committed the crime, the baby, the mother, or the rapist? Okay. And they would say the rapist. And I said, well, why is the baby getting the death penalty? And every one of them were like, wow, I never thought about that. I never thought about that. But it's always about a rape is a horrible thing to go through. Okay. And my heart breaks for the women that have been sexually abused. I hate that. And of course, that's what we stand up against, here at Through the Black. Okay. What a horrible thing, but you can't put a murder on top of a rape to get rid of the rape. It doesn't unrape you. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, there are many people that have been conceived in rape and allowed to live and love their life and are happy that they're alive. And their father did a horrible crime, but it wasn't their fault. So, that kind of goes hand in hand. We just kind of throw that in there. But this woman, her arrogance is next level. Vic, I kind of agree with you. I think she could pass a lie detector test.
Oh, definitely. She definitely believes her own garbage.
Yeah. And again, I wrote this down. What are the warning signs for something like this? Okay, because we run into these people in life. We see these people in, at schools, parents of other children, at sports, events, wherever you see them out. And obviously not every person that behaves like this is going to commit these crimes.
Right.
But something pushed them over the edge to where, or her over the edge to where she thought, okay, this is a good idea.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's easy for us to sit here and go like, oh man, she's got twisted theology, and all of us are going to find out someday that we had some theology wrong. Right. So I don't think if bad doctrine was an open door to being overtaken by spirits, we'd all be in jeopardy, because we all, despite our best efforts, we don't have it all figured out. But what's interesting is, and I think this is the model in James, you do not have, because you do not ask that whole line of thinking. When you ask with wrong motives to spend it on your passions, and it talks about this downward spiral of when we open up that door to sin. And so when I look at her, just the fact that she is committing adultery, right there, the enemy has a foot in the door. Now, there's a lot of people who commit adultery that don't wind up this far down the beaten path, but you open up that door through your own sin. There's no repentance. There's no sense of remorse. There's no humility. You mix that then with aberrant doctrine. You mix that with prideful tendencies or mental illnesses. This is sort of like the perfect storm going on, right? And so I was reading a little bit in preparation for the show, Tom, and I did not realize this, but when people have mania or bipolar, like if they are diagnosed with bipolar or mania, it can go hand in hand with what they've labeled it hyper-religiosity. And I've seen this. I actually know someone who's very close to me that was diagnosed with mania, and it got mixed in with this hyper-religiosity. And it doesn't just happen to people who are religious. It can actually happen to atheists as well. But this hyper-religiosity is that all of a sudden, all of the aspects of this mental illness, which can be delusions of grandeur, goes with mania, paranoia. Everyone's out there talking about me. I'm the center of everything. If this gets overlaid with a spirit of hyper-religiosity, the way that mental illness contorts is, I'm a prophet. It's not the classic narcissistic, like I'm the most wonderful thing in the world. It turns into, I've been appointed by God as a prophet. I've read bios online of people who have struggled with this, who have said, one guy I read about a while back said that he believed that he was one of the two prophets that was going to be raised from the dead in Revelation, the two that are found in the street. And he was on a mission to find the other one.
I met the other one years ago. Go ahead.
Did you? So anyway, she seems to be a classic case of manic with this hyper religiosity. So it's contorting into, I'm on this mission from God. I've been appointed to save the world. I'm the most important person. I'm the Virgin Mary. I'm Jesus, that sort of a thing. And what's kind of scary to me, though, Tom, and I was telling you this before the show, if you just read sort of the dictionary definition of hyper-religiosity, it's worded in such a way that if someone is really, really serious about their faith, and they talk all the time about Jesus, and they see everything through the lens of God working in their life, or maybe God did this to discipline me, or maybe God is, speaking to you. Even without the branding of a mental illness, I can see where this hyper-religiosity as a mental illness could one day be used against Christians who are just sincere in their faith and do not have a mental illness. Vic,
we could do a show on religiosity. It's got me thinking of all kinds of things, and I don't know if I want to open that can of worms now. There are so many different examples in different parts of Christianity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it can pertain to a lot of, some of the things that we study and some of the things that we talk about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I have definitely seen these extreme people, and doesn't it seem like they burn out pretty quick? Or you can just kind of see, okay, this is not going to end well. And then I've seen it play out on social media. It starts out, well, we're doing this, or hey, it starts out, we're going to do this, or we're going to do that, or whatever. And then before you know it, they are twisting scripture like you wouldn't believe.
Yes.
And then it goes for full circle. They reject the whole thing, and they're back to doing whatever they were doing before, and cussing and smoking weed, or just even worse. You know what I'm saying? Like they become cynical about it. I mean, this cycle make sense? Or
Yeah, it does. And what I've noticed, and like I said, I'm not an expert in the field of mental illness or psychosis, but I do have someone very close to me that has gone through this cycle, and I've watched it for the last 10 years. Supposedly, if you have mania, it means you are, like, if this is a normal baseline of dopamine and emotions, you are way up here, and you are way up here all the time. You're manic. And so the medication that they're put on is supposed to level them out to normal. Now, unfortunately, the reason why a lot of people with mania don't take their medication is when you're used to being up here and you have heightened levels of joy and creativity, when you normalize, you feel like a zombie, and they like that feeling. So a lot of them will not take the meds. But what I have found is a lot of the people that are diagnosed manic are actually bipolar. They don't just stay up here. What happens is it's a cycle where they're manic, and just like you said, they bring themselves to a point of absolute exhaustion. There's only so many months you can be, having dopamine shooting out at increasing levels. So what happens then is they don't normalize. The bipolar is now they go down and they get almost suicidal. And, maybe it's not the same for everybody, but the person I know, it's ramped up, pinball machine, like ramped up and to the point of exhaustion. And then it's down. And what's really sad about Christians that are enduring this cycle is when they're in the upward cycle, it's, I'm the prophet, I'm chosen by God, I'm wonderful, everything's great. But then when they hit the bipolar part, then it is, I'm a horrible, rotten sinner, I'm going to burn in hell. And so it becomes not just depression, it becomes an actual suicidal, like, my whole soul has been taken from me. These people are in such a tug of war. They are utterly shelled out. And so when I look at this Lori chick, if she ever gets off the manic train, her bipolar plunge is going to be very, very severe. Now, there's probably a lot of people who think, well, good, she'll get what she deserves. But and looking at this through the lens of the battle is not against flesh and blood, if we look at this through the lens of we are all human beings sharing this collective experience of being cannon fodder in the middle of a spiritual war, look how much has been killed, stealed, and destroyed in this family. The kids, the grandparents, the sisters, the aunts, an entire ripple effect of generations has been affected by this one woman's mental illness. And so I'm just looking at big picture. Ultimately, whether on earth or in heaven, she'll get what she deserves, right? God will righteously judge according to what she's done. But in the meantime, look how much the enemy has stolen from this entire extended family.
Yeah. I remember years and years ago, I've told this story before, but there used to be a couple guys, but there was one guy that would carry a cross through our town.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And he was carrying a cross and witnessing to people, and he would go out to Park Avenue when it was real busy, and he would stop and give tracts and witness to people. And I thought, man, I support him. I was like, man, that's really cool. That's really cool. And then I saw him one day with a bullhorn. And I was like, oh, man, I don't think a bullhorn is cool. It was just like, I pulled over and it was a night when it wasn't that busy. And he was in an area where there wasn't many people. And I was like, I just kind of felt the need to throw my 2 cents in. And I was like, hey, man, I like what you're doing. I said, but you were louder without the bullhorn, And I got to talking to the guy, and he fell into this profile of hyper religious. Okay. And he began telling me, and I ran into him a couple of times. I would see him out walking, and one of the things that he came up with the last time that I talked to him was he said, yeah, I quit combing my hair because that's a thing of pride. And I was being prideful by combing my hair. And, and then he began telling me the sinful things I had in my life, and that I needed to take care of these things. And here I am kind of debating this guy over holiness or righteousness. And he's saying, yeah, I mean, this guy's so holy, he won't even comb his hair because he thinks it's a pride thing. And he thinks it's a sin to run a comb through his hair. And then a couple years later, I run into him and he's drinking and smoking and whatever. And I was like, aren't you the dude? Aren't you the dude? He's like, yeah, dude, that was me, man. That was me. But I slipped up, man. And I'm not doing good right now. And I'm like, why not just repent and turn your back on this stuff? But he acted like it was just, but now that I'm thinking about it, he wasn't in that part of the cycle, he wasn't to the repent part yet.
Yeah.
But here this guy was coming up with these extreme religious rules, yeah, I can't comb my hair. I couldn't believe that when he said that. And I've never been, a theologian, or a Bible scholar, but I knew enough to know the character of God that he didn't care if we combed our hair or not, So anyway, that's an example of hyper religiosity. So crazy. Vic, I of course we're looking at the witness statement of Lori there, and I don't even know what to say about that. I wasn't aware of the of all the details of the being served at the beach and all of this stuff. But now that I'm having some more pieces of this puzzle get in, I got to reassess what I think about this, because this narcissism, this spiritual deception, brain control, arrogance is next level.
Yeah.
Very fascinating. Love to know what the listeners think of this. As I've said before, my grandpa would say, that person's full of the devil. I can't, you know what I'm saying? I believe the devil, had a hand in this, no doubt about it. He loves to see murder. He loves to see the murder of children, whether it's through abortion or by this dad, right? So he loves the shedding of innocent blood. No doubt there was some door open in this guy's life that made him vulnerable to demonic suggestion, right? I mean, as Christians, the enemy can tempt us. He can tempt us to lie. He can tempt us to do whatever sin, and he can't make us do it though, but he can scream in our ear, and he can present us with this, and he can set up a series of events that are just uncanny, that it's like, what is going on here, right? But he can't make us do it. Well, we're Christians. We're covered by the blood of Christ. We love Jesus, and we can still be tempted, and we can still give in to that temptation. What about somebody who's not? What about somebody who's opened a door? What about somebody that's been traumatized, abused, who's struggling with mental illness? Okay, some kind of a chemical imbalance, that are on psychotropic drugs. What about when you throw all of these other factors in there, right? So as believers, it's hard. It's a war, right? And we've got to have our sword. We got to have on the full armor of God. I mean, why did Paul train us to put on the helmet of salvation? Okay, the breastplate of righteousness, and all of these elements to the suit. It's hard to live in this world and to fight the devil, and he has weapons that he can use against us. So, and this guy was basically naked, okay, and so was Lori, basically naked, and obviously not saved. So, spiritually speaking, they were wide open to suggestion. They were wide open to whatever the enemy is bringing. Okay, we know that Christians. Okay, Vic, you wrote the book. They only come out at night. And we can be attacked in our sleep. There are vulnerabilities that we have in our life, but we have protection. We have the authority of Christ that we can call on, that we can invoke, right? So anyway, folks, one of the things we want to say about tonight, be the one that's going to pray over your neighbors. You don't know what they're going through. And pray, Lord, use me. Can I be the one? Okay. How many times has God opened up opportunities for us to witness to people when we pray? Okay. I've just seen amazing things happen. Pray before you leave your house in the morning. Lord, use me somewhere today. Okay. You know, at the store, at work, in the neighborhood, whatever. So, Vic.
Yeah. I think just in closing, my heart just goes out to the surviving members who have to process this wreckage for the rest of their lives. I can't imagine the grief, the anger, the bitterness, the trauma, any number of emotions, and probably changing day by day, moment by moment. All four of these individuals who were killed have children, grandchildren, family members, and they're still alive. They're real people. You know, when you get up tomorrow morning and, you know, your whole family is there at the breakfast table to greet you, and you're looking forward to this weekend, and you're looking forward to your vacation, that has been ripped out of all of these people, and they can't ever get it back. And they don't even have the satisfaction of the remorse or the apology of the person who inflicted it. I can't imagine what they're going through. So I'm just going to pray and ask you guys to pray that as this comes to mind in the next few days before, you know, a lot of these things are so shocking when we hear it, but they're like snowflakes. A few days later, we forget all about it. So just for the next couple days, as these people come to your mind, seize that opportunity before it's forgotten to just pray for the survivors of this and pray for their faith and that God would work all these things together for good, which seems impossible in our eyes. But just, if anything, let this show just put these people in your mind for the next couple days and pray for them. I cannot imagine what they are going through.
Yes, I agree. Heartbreaking, Vic. And when you were just describing it earlier, the idea of what they witnessed. Okay. And I'm thinking about the family in Ohio. I don't know how you get a good night's sleep after going through that. They need our prayers. So a couple things I want to mention as we close here. One, I have a couple speaking engagements next week. If somebody happens to be around, I'm going to be actually speaking at a garage in Mount Vernon, Ohio at JC's Auto. He has church in his garage every Tuesday night, and just super cool. This guy he's like, man, I want to do something. What can I do? I know I'll have church in my garage every Tuesday night. And he has a different speaker. So he asked me to come down. I'm going to go down there in Mount Vernon. And then the night after that, I'm actually speaking at a gospel tent over in the Lima area, whatever the closest county is. I forget the name of the county over there, but I'm going to be over there speaking at a gospel tent on Wednesday night and giving a testimony. So, hey, folks, we will try to go anywhere. Okay. We just want to tell people about Jesus, how good he's been to us, and how much he loves you. And man, the Christian, as I always say, the Christian life is a good life. I am so thankful to be saved, but we will be back sometime. We don't know when. We're working on that. We got some stuff going on. I'm trying to get my kids started back to school. It's been a crazy, crazy summer. Lots of good things happening, Vic, and we've just been busy. And it's been important that I know I can say for myself, I think for you too, that we've had this time off. And we're going to get back to it. We don't know what it's going to look like when we come back, but we have a bunch of ideas. But we want to do some shows. And we're going to try to continue to bring, the subjects like this to you. And of course, we want to give a Christian biblical worldview on spiritual warfare. What's happening? You see the story on the TV. There's more to it than this. We appreciate you guys, the comments, the input, the support, the prayer. We covet your prayers. And I can't wait to tell you like all the good things that have been going on in my life. And there's even an announcement that that I haven't got the total clearance to talk about yet, but will. And just great things happening, guys. Just keep an eye out at throughtheblack.com. That's where you can kind of keep updated. You can see our shows. And of course, thank you for subscribing here and just for everything that you guys do. We appreciate you so much. So anyway, Vic, that's all we got. Good seeing you, my sister. Tell Dad I said hey. And,
I will.
I will talk to you guys later. All righty. Bye-bye.
Put your magic twanger, Froggy.